here.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Sit Down Saturday. I gotta refresh everybody's memory. I'm not sure that I'm gonna be doing these every week. I've been doing it for like the past 5, but you know, stuff has come up or time is allowed. It may not allow every week. I'll just do them as I can. I also don't respond to comments on discussion videos. I respond to comments on all the other ones. I guess we should do a quick recap. First of all, I want to thank you guys. I expected a lot of loss of emotion in the comments section on last week's video, but for the most part, like 97%, even the people that disagreed respectfully, you know, stated their opinions, why they disagreed, gave their reasons, and kind of moved on. And I got respect for that. You know, you don't have to agree with me. It's just my opinion. So the people that were disagreeing with me, they just kind of said their piece. They said it respectfully as a cordial, healthy discourse sort of conversation for the most part. And, you know, I'm not mad at that. That's cool in the gang. And I'll be at TFCon DC if anybody wants to continue the conversation further, if I, time permitting, of course. I know that when I do stuff like that KO video that it creates a polarizing kind of thing. And I love that it has sparked discussion. You know, I love that people have gotten talking about it and exchanging ideas. Hopefully they can remain respectful, because I feel like we should be respectful to one another. But I dig that. I hear that, you know, there's a long page on different websites and all that. Like that's cool. That's cool that people are talking about it, and you know, understanding other people's points of view, and whatever, like evolving and growing and changing and whatever, like learning more. I think that's great. I know that when I have a statement though that's kind of a line drawn in the sand, that is going to make some people upset. It's not personal, and you know, I know that, like, I think it was Howard Stern that said, like, you know, it's the people that don't like what you do that always watch more than the people that like what you do. So I expected a huge backlash from it, and I didn't get it. And most people had very respectful disagreements, and kind of I saw just healthy exchanges of information and points of view, and that's how it should be. That's how it all should be. It is a community after all. Of course, there's always a few bad apples, but you know, we have to expect such things. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. So look, I figured today we'd go over the TFCon reveals, and also the Transformer Prime Powers, Power of the Primes reveals from SDCC. Usually I only do these videos if there's something I can really make a joke at and kind of go hardcore, but I just did a rant last week, so I don't feel like that's really needed. Before we do, just a couple things I want to clear up on the KO video that I was trying to make clear, but I suppose I should have specified. It's hard to make something like that, and you look at it and you're thinking to yourself, you know, oh good, I covered all the bases, and then you start seeing the comments and you're like, well, obviously this didn't come across. So people were like, you know, well, what if they're, you know, the upsized ones? So, when is it okay to buy KO? In my opinion, never. Or they were like, well, what if the quality is improved? So, when is it okay to buy KO? In my opinion, never. So I thought that was covered, but yeah, it's to me. And then, you know, well, what if 5% has changed, 10% has changed, and that's why I say at the end, you know, I don't know if I can define it, but I know it when I see it. Anyway, so let's just move forward. Let's get to these reveals. Let's start with TFCon. This stuff is really worth looking at, because I mean, we're basically looking at the toys that we're getting over the next year, both from Hasbro and third-party companies. Look, I want to say that before we get started on this, I'm not going to be talking about everything. I'm just going to be talking about things that are new reveals and that I find interesting. A lot of this stuff in this panel isn't new, and I think that there's a reason for that. We'll talk about that at the end. But I just want to cover the things that I found interesting or exciting or that we hadn't seen before. It kind of has to check all 3 of those boxes. So let's begin. Moss Toys did release their skiff, and then the repaints and slight retools of the skiff there, which I did the box art for. I haven't looked at the figures. I didn't ask for money for that box art, and I don't get a commission or a royalty or anything like that from the box art. I just did it to kind of really be a part of it. I know he reached out to a lot of reviewers to do stuff. Like, I think Kuma did the pictures and PL did the review and all that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to be a part of it if I could. I won't be reviewing it here, obviously, because I contributed to it. So kind of, it would be impossible to eliminate some sort of bias in some regard, right? But I don't think that I'm getting any money if you purchase that it's supporting me. But if you want to check it out, I think that I'm going to get a copy of each, and have on display. Just something I'm proud of. But they did release the 3 figures, and then showed some stuff that's coming. What I'm most excited about from their reveals was their stack, which, you know, is their pipes, but it's like a MP IDW inspired pipes. And that's pretty cool. I definitely am in for that because I think I'm going to do some MP IDW stuff, you know, if it makes sense. Like I got the Prime and the Jazz, and, you know, I'm in for a few more. So that does look cool. The art looks spot on. You know, hopefully the everything else follows through. Looks like we're finally getting a Power Glide from DX9. I was surprised there wasn't more Power Glides shown. You know, he's one of the characters that we're missing. I think that this looks good. It seems to be a little pricey for a mini-bot. I think it's going to be a little tall, but ultimately I'm still in. Nothing really jumps out at me as being, you know, especially concerning. You know, and hopefully they can do a red finish on that guy. I doubt that they will. DX9 doesn't do a whole lot of finishes, but I think, you know, that cherry red is just always pops. DX9 is also doing a set of Stunticons, it seems. This is going to be 1 centimeter taller than the X-Transbots one. The X-Transbots one is coming in at 49 inches, and this one is coming in at 50. I'm going to get both sets. I'm a Stunticon fan, plus I want to support Keith in this venture, like I said in that video. A lot of people were saying, well, it's time to do an updated video, but that video wasn't really about those Stunticons. It was really more so about, you know, what's going on there business-wise. As these reveals and stuff go on, I might do a discussion video where we compare the two sets. But as of right now, we only see breakdown from the DX9 set, and we get to see all of the ones from the other. So I'm really excited about it. Like, Stunticons are my favorite. I've been waiting for them to kind of get that love from third party recently, and I'm going to get both sets, and I'm going to do one for robot mode and one for combined mode, and then and be pretty happy, to be honest with you. I've been waiting a long time for this. So I couldn't be happier, and I'm looking forward to see it. I think this is DX9's first bigger scale combiner. I think they did a Legends, right? They did that Devastator, but I think that this is exciting. You know, let's see how it goes. So hopefully it'll go smoothly. I don't think that he cleans up necessarily as well as the X-Transbots one, but I have a theory about that, and we'll get back to it. He does look superposable and stuff, so that's cool. We got a Planet X Ultra Magnus. I'll tell you, like, you know, the Planet X stuff I think is cool, and I love those video games. I'm not in for the collection, but I'll tell you what I respect about them. They found a lane, and they stayed in it. Like, it works for them, they don't really compete with anyone, and they just have this wide open avenue to just run down at full speed. Or not full speed, whatever their little hearts desire. And I just like that idea. I wish that, you know, G1 is obviously, you know, like the foundation, so everybody's going to kind of run there. But it is refreshing to see this one company kind of find a plan, stick with it, and not have to deal with, you know, multiple competing companies tripping over themselves and eating one another for the sake of of one character that's kind of highly anticipated. So I tip my hat to them. I think that they're maybe, like, if you look at all of it and the ups and downs of some of these companies in regards to that maybe they're one of the smartest companies in the game. And they also showed their Megatron, which we have seen. We've actually seen, I think, teases or something of that in the past. Lastly, they showed their Insecticons, and a buddy of mine said it looked like a bunch of wicked spatulas. That's just like the silhouettes, which I thought was funny, but I'm sure they'll be fun. I think G Creation's 6-shot looks beautiful. I've seen and heard a lot of people say, like, what's the need for this? Well, like, this is something that is it's not touched, right? Like, we have this, which is a masterpiece scaled IDW inspired 6-shot. You know, like we have a Chug scaled IDW inspired 6-shot from MMC. We have 2 G1 inspired masterpiece 6-shots from, I think it's DX9's Hanzo, and then Fans Toys, I forget the name of that one, but, you know, so those are both G1, and then we had this IDW inspired one. So it's really it's a unique thing, and it's in its own lane, and it's not really competing with anything. I'll probably end up picking that up as well, as long as that transformation isn't a nightmare. 6 modes on that thing. I can just imagine if I had to go through that Prime they put out 6 times. Oh God, please no. We got this Rising Force Motormaster. I'm not sure what this is about. I'm weary to jump in on something like this because, you know, so it looks like it's a new company. I'm not sure if they've come from somewhere else, and the concern would be that they don't do all 5, and then you're just stuck with this one Motormaster. But the motor, I was talking on SCU, like the Motormaster cab is so close to the trailer. I think it was my buddy Deluxe. He said, "Do you know who his arch nemesis is? U-turns. U-turns." Generation Toy hit us with a couple interesting things. They hit us with the Defensor, which I think looks great. You know, I think Generation Toy makes a pretty good figure. Like, I think that they're an up-and-coming company. Like, I think that they kind of had some bumps in the road getting started with, you know, because they basically went from Warbitron Generation Toy Transformation, so like it's all the same folks, and they kind of had some bumps in the road, but they're really taking off now. I think that they have some of the best engineering in the game. I'm watching them very closely because I think that they're hungry and I think that they're improving. So I'm excited about their Defensor. I'm not sure if I'm in on it yet. I gotta be careful with these combiners, but I think it looks great. I'm going to be watching it very closely. I also like that. I like this Primal. I wouldn't be in on it. Beast Wars isn't my thing, but I enjoy the idea of a more machine-styled animal mode than the more, the organic style animal mode where they're like real animals. Like I that was one of the things that turned me off to Beast Wars when I was a kid and I watched it for the first time. I was like, I don't get this. I don't like it. Get it out of here. So I like the idea, and I've seen like the art that this is inspired by and stuff. I think this looks cooler, personally. This was my taste. I think this looks cooler than what we actually got in Beast Wars. I think if they were all styled this way when Beast Wars started, I probably would have gotten, drawn into that line and into that franchise. But as it were, it didn't happen that way, so I kind of just skipped over it. But I do think this looks cool, and I do think this looks interesting, and I'm hoping to get the opportunity to take a look at that as well. This MMC Ocular Max Rumble and Frenzy can't come soon enough. I can't wait to get my blue Rumble and my red and black Frenzy and put those on my shelves. You know what I mean? But I think they look amazing. I'm happy with the size. I like them to be a little bit bigger. I feel like they fluctuated in the cartoon, obviously, but in my head they were always at least like Bumblebee size. They weren't always these little fellas. I get that Takara had to make them fit into the tape deck because otherwise everybody would have complained about that, and it totally makes sense to me. But I like the idea of this other option. And then from X-Transbots, we got to see the rest of the Stunticons. I'm really happy with them. I'm definitely going to use them as my bot modes for two reasons. I think the bot modes look spot on to the G1, which is a little too G1, I agree, but I'm a sucker for them. I can't wait. That is the thing I'm most looking forward to in the world right now, are these X-Transbot Stunticons. Like, I cannot wait to have them together. It's just like it's the ultimate childhood fantasy, and for me in a way. When that was my favorite team. I love them to death, and to get like a G1 representation, masterpiece scale, and just be able to look at them all standing together, like that is really going to do it for me. And then also to have them juxtaposed next to the Unique Toys ones in robot mode, looking very G1, and it's just, I am really, really excited about the prospect of some of these new combiners, and I can't wait to get my hands on them. But that being said, I do want to talk about one thing specifically that I don't know how I feel about, and that's this Minosaur. Now, a lot of people have hit me up about this Minosaur to kind of voice their concerns, and I have to say, I see where they're coming from. I'm not sure how the engineering of this thing is going to work, and what I can see happening is I can see the cars on the legs just pegging into the back, which is fine. But I can see dead end and drag strip coming with like a parts forming arm. That's just the whole arm, almost like a Build-A-Figure. Otherwise, I have no idea how they're going to engineer this. If they found a way to engineer this, that's going to be some real magic. And I would look forward to seeing how that's happened. But I get the impression that it's going to be almost like a Build-A-Figure piece that you kind of snap together, which is interesting, and I'm not necessarily against it, although I don't feel like this is really that great looking. I don't think it looks as true to the cartoon, which is what their bots are going for. And I feel like the legs are a little skinny and the arms are a little skinny in comparison to like the bulk of the middle of the bot. That being said, of course I'm going to get it. I'm a sucker for Minosaur. Shout out to Paul C. He just sent me that RID Minosaur as like a gag gift. And then I found out from Robert D. that Spiros is sending one as well. So it looks like I'm going to have this collection of misfit Minosaurs to keep somewhere. It's a gift and a curse. But I do think that this is interesting. I am curious to see how they do it, but I wonder how people are going to react to it. Me, like I'm kind of open to the idea of new ways of doing business if it creates successful things. But I can see people getting very emotional about, like when anything in Transformers kind of breaks the mold of what you're used to. For instance, parts forming. Beast Wars, to be fair, kind of broke the mold of what I was used to, and I dismissed that. And I think that this could potentially break the mold of what people are used to, and I can see people being very turned off by the idea. And I get that. It doesn't necessarily turn me off. What turns me off more is that if they do pull that kind of stunt, good grief, that it doesn't look better. That's kind of my thing. But still in for the line, still going to support Keith on this one, and I'm looking forward to it. And that pretty much wraps up the third-party panel. Now, we didn't get a ton of reveals this year. People were very disappointed. We didn't get anything from Make Toys. I think that's the first time they've never been in the panel. Nothing really new from Fans Toys. They showed off more of their Cyclonus, which looks great under the Perfect Fusion line or whatever, but nothing really new. We've seen that Cyclonus before, in teases at least. I think we're going to see that more and more with these companies kind of constantly stepping on top of themselves, stepping over themselves, eating each other. I think you're going to see them play their cards a lot closer to their chest. I think that stuff got a little hairy with the Insecticons. It got a little hairy with the Trailbreaker Wars. It's got ridiculous with the Springer. So I think people are going to be a little bit more guarded about what they reveal so that they can kind of strike while the iron's hot and get that, oh, they made that money. Let's move on to Hasbro themselves. So I don't think this stuff looks terrible. Throughout my re-involvement in Transformers, I think that Combiner Wars was definitely the lowest point, and things have kind of been on an upward climb since then. Conceptually, I like a lot of things, and I'm saying this to do a compliment sandwich, as I said on Shadowcast. So I'm saying that to say this. I'm sure that things are still on an upward swing. I think there's been a rejuvenation, a revitalization of Hasbro. I think the Marvel Legends have gotten tons better. I think that Star Wars: The Black Series has some ups and downs, but is still on an upward incline. And I think that Transformers is doing the same. So I do think that things are still improving there. Now let's talk about these figures, and then we'll get back to another compliment. So we got this Hot Rod. And this Hot Rod turns into Rodimus, which is cool conceptually, and the trailer can be all-inclusive and stuff like that, like the power armor that Fans Project did. But his thighs sitting up on his shoulders and that mess sitting up on his back turned me right off. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, and I think that it is a cool idea. I just don't think it was executed that well. I think this Jazz is a mess. I think the car mode looks more like Crasher, like my buddy T2RX6 said, and I think the front of the car is just a miss. I think a lot of this stuff has that combiner element to it, and if they would have just left that alone, they would have had a better overall product. I do think that these jets, was Darkwing and Dreadwing or whatever it is, I do think that these are cool, and I think it's cool that you're getting those. We'll get back to that. But I think it's probably a breath of fresh air for a lot of mainline collectors to get those characters. They're kind of a very fan favorite type of set, and people have probably been looking forward to it for some time, so I'm happy for them that they finally get that. I think the Beachcomber looks the best, but I also think that Hasbro excels at Legends. I used to say that I think that they excel at Legends and excel at Voyagers, but I can't say that anymore because of Starscream. I think for a Voyager class figure, this is a joke. And apparently this is going to have some sort of combiner function also. I would just throw the baby out with the bathwater on this one. And then we got this Skullgrin thing, which I do want to take a minute to talk about. So, I hate this, okay? I like the Pretenders, especially the Decepticon Pretenders. I thought they were really cool as a kid. And I would have been excited for that prospect. But the idea, I have two trains of thoughts on this, thanks to T2RX6. We'll get back to it. But I have two trains of thoughts on this. One is the fact that it's a little fella that opens up and the guy comes out is a big turnoff for me, because then it makes that I know they're going to come with other figures, but it makes wanting to have that in my collection a total wash. I don't want it at all. I think it's ridiculous. I think the robot is the most important part of Transformers generally. That's where the characterization comes out 99% of the time. You have Grimlock and all those, where the Predacons and stuff, where the Beast is kind of equally as important. But for the most part, it's the robot that is the main focus of the characterization of any given character. So therefore, I feel like the robot should be the size you want it to be. Everything else should sort of adapt around that. Now, my buddy T2RX6 had made a good argument that, well, the Pretenders are supposed to be about the size of humans, so they would be about the same size as humans. Like, it scales properly. So, like, okay, I get it. I respect that. It's just not what I want personally. Now, I know a lot of people are really into the gimmicky style stuff with Transformers. Like, they love that Titans Returns had a Headmaster Astrotrain, and they can sit in the little gun car, and it just doesn't do it for me. Like, I don't... For me, it's all about the characterization. It's not about the gimmicky stuff. I'm not against gimmicks as long as the gimmicks don't interfere with the character. And I feel like this is a situation where the gimmick interferes with the character, and I feel that way about making characters that aren't headmasters or what have you. I feel like that gets in the way of that. So that's not for me. If you like it, you win, but it's not for me. And I want to talk real quickly about these other slides, like these Dinobots. I think that fans are really lucky that they get their Dinobots from the main line, like they've been another set they've been wanting forever, and then the Predaking. We'll get to the Predaking in a second. The Dinobots, I think they missed a huge opportunity by making 4 Deluxes and 1 Voyager. I have 2 reasons for this. I'm sure they're going to combine, which is not for me either, but even if they did combine, why not make them Titan size like the Predaking, which is going to be 5 Voyagers, so that they can kind of fight one another. And instead you're going to have these 4 little Dinobots and then 1 big Grimlock, and it's just, I don't know, that would irritate me. If I was in for that set, I'd be like, man, like, come on. I mean, I don't think they look necessarily great, but I don't think some of the Deluxes look bad. I have weird feelings about Grimlock's Dino Mode, but I just think it's a really big missed opportunity. I don't know how that decision got made, but I really feel like somebody dropped the ball. The Predacons, what interests me about this is all the Predacons down at the bottom are all Studio Ox inspired. The drawings are all from the Studio Ox drawings. So I wonder if it's going to have an Ox feel to it. You know, that'd be interesting for me to see. It looks like we're going to get Terracons. You know, I think that's cool. I don't think they look great at all, but I think that's cool. Which brings me to my closing compliment for the Hasbro stuff, right? Now, I could go on and on about the SDCC reveals that Hasbro did for Legends and Black Series. I think there's some really exciting stuff there, but I know most people aren't interested in that. I also think Hot Toys had a great reveal. Storm Collectibles had a great reveal. There was a lot of companies that really brought their A game to this thing. But what I think is cool that Hasbro's doing is, like, if you were just a mainline guy, right? If you didn't tap into third party, you didn't really tap into Masterpiece, you didn't kind of put your toes into these different pies. If you were just like, look, I like the Chug line. I like the Classics, Henkai, is it? Universe, Generations, Legends, Deluxe, Voyager, Leader. That's my bread and butter. If that's you, Hasbro's done a pretty amazing job of knocking out all these characters so that you could have a full cast of characters for your shelf. There's still some holes, obviously, but I do give them kudos for that. That is pretty impressive that they were able to do that. I don't think most of them are good. That's just my opinion. But for the people that are into it, they seem to like it. So I think it's pretty impressive that Hasbro pretty much, fleshed all their shells out. You know? Like, I think that they deserve some love for that. So yeah, that'll wrap it up. You know, it looks like it's going to be an exciting year. This Hot Toys thing is going to really break my pockets. And I'm just doing Star Wars. I don't know how these people do it. These, like, people that just do Hot Toys and they do, like, the Marvel and DC and, you know, Star Wars and, like, oh, God, like, it's a pricey hobby. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I think we can wrap it up. I'm not sure if we'll have one next week. It's my daughter's birthday and some other stuff, but I will be at TFCon. I do want to do some stuff when we get closer to TFCon about, like, where I'll be at TFCon and what I'll have set up and other plans I have going if anybody wants to take a part in that. So, yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.